meanwhile, obviously, on the other side, you have Palestinians that are trying to go back to their homes, or what remains of their homes is mostly just reduce the rubble, and they are trying to rebuild. They're trying to rebuild. They're trying to survive. And meanwhile, there's obviously some chaos that's taking place in the restructuring in the Gaza Strip, like all of the collaborator clans and ISIS affiliates and other criminal elements that were unleashed upon the Strip in the process of the genocide by Israel are getting apprehended, and there's some chaotic incidences that have taken place. Like one of the gangs allegedly shot and killed a very famous Palestinian reporter, and then there's been retaliation on top of that. We'll obviously dive into it as well. We'll dive into we'll dive into like what has taken place in terms of like Hamas regaining control as the only organizing body on the Strip until they basically dissolve or give up control to a technocratic committee comprised of all of the different factions within Gaza. And it's really interesting because like a lot of people have been complaining about it, right? A lot of people are like saying, well, there's chaos. Hamas is killing people. Hamas is killing people. And Donald Trump straight up came out, as he often does, as he did yesterday as well on that plane, and said, yep, it's right. It's happening. Let's take a look.
Very, very bad gangs, and they did take them out, and they killed a number of gang members. And that didn't bother me much, to be honest with you. That's okay. We had a couple of very bad gangs. You know, it's no different than other countries. Like Venezuela sent their gangs into us, and we took care of those gangs. We have Washington, D.C.
Like, not only is he saying that these are very bad gangs, like, and he's not wrong. Like, these are ISIS affiliates. These are comprised of like drug dealers, ISIS affiliates, and people that Israel gave weapons to specifically to create an environment of chaos at the point of aid distribution and aid delivery. Like everything Israel said Hamas was doing, everything Israel claimed Hamas was doing, they actually got these collaborators to do. Okay? Every single thing. And obviously, Israel not only was urging them to do this, but they were also giving them the weapons to do this, and they were literally doing it from their base. For the most famous version of this is obviously Abu Shabab, Yasser Abu Shabab, who was in prison for drug dealing. That Israel broke him out of prison after October 7, and then basically gave him a bunch of money, gave him some weapons, gave him aerial coverage with drones and whatnot to support him. And obviously, you might know Yasser Abu Shabab, despite the fact that he is illiterate and can't even read or write in Arabic, from his Wall Street Journal opinion editorial piece that he wrote. Clearly, it was him who wrote that. That's, you might know that from his, because I'm not the biggest fan of the guy, but he's a mean writer. He's a really good op-ed writer. He wrote for the Wall Street Journal. So, in any case, Hamas and like the interior security apparatus that exists currently is punishing the collaborators and creating some semblance of stability in the Gaza Strip. Okay? And it's interesting that Donald Trump, in the classic Trumpian way, is openly saying it. Like, he's just like, yeah, these guys are dealing with like some really bad gangs. These guys are dealing with some really bad gangs. These are some really brutal gangs. He's not saying that like it was gangs armed by Israel. Okay? Even though that is the case. But the very fact that he's saying that instead of using the Hasbara line of like, well, these guys are brutal barbarians, is very interesting.
Is one of the safest cities in the country. It was one of the worst cities in the country if you go back just a little while ago, right? Now it's safe. You can walk to work. Isn't it nice? And
stuff like this gives me a little bit more confidence that he obviously wants the ceasefire to stick, and he sees Hamas as like the only party that he can He sees Hamas as like the only party that can maintain stability and push the ceasefire to stick. Okay? New, Trump defends Hamas crackdown on gangs in Gaza, likens the cleaning up Washington, D.C. Speaking for the White House, Trump said Hamas did take out a couple of gangs that were very bad and killed a number of gang members. And that didn't bother me much, to be honest with you, he added. That's okay. Trump compared to how his own administration handled violent gangs, claiming Venezuela sent their gangs. Now, of course, when Donald Trump is talking about like what he's doing with like domestic, he's doing with like the domestic incidents, like there is a difference between a resistance faction that is trying to literally, in the imminent aftermath of a pause in this genocide, restore some semblance of order, versus the most powerful nation on the planet creating a fake environment to start executing people carte blanche with no repercussions whatsoever, off of faulty claims that they're actually violent gang members. So there is no comparison between like what Hamas is doing with what the United States of America has been doing, for the record. Like, that's not a real comparison. But it's funny that that's like the only thing he can, like, I like that he's using Hamas as a positive here in terms of like dealing with criminal elements while simultaneously saying, we're just like Hamas. Because that's what this is. That's what he's saying here. He's saying, my administration is just like Hamas, dealing with violent drug dealers and gang members in the most violent ways possible. Like, he's using Hamas as a positive force. Okay? Which is very strange. It's a very strange thing to hear from a fucking American president or any American politician. This is outflanking. This is outflanking Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is outflanking every left politician whatsoever. Like, this is an accurate reflection of what's taking place in the Gaza Strip without actually thinking about the why, the reasons as to why this kind of violence is taking place on the Strip. But it's shocking to me that he is able to just say that. Okay? He's just able to be like, yeah, that's right. Hamas, they're restoring order. Any other person, I mean, this is truly a Teflon Don moment, because any other American figure that says something like this, they would get fucking destroyed. Okay? They would get fucking destroyed. And I still think the reason why he's saying this is because he hasn't gotten the proper Hasbara notes on this. And he partially thinks that in order to make this ceasefire stick, which is clear that he wants the ceasefire to stick, the party that he has to align with, the more responsible party, the party that actually will generate the stability necessary for the ceasefire to hold, is going to be the existing resistance structure, which is currently led by Hamas, which is, you know, unexpected from Donald Trump, but I guess he has his moments like that. This is yet another interesting Trump moment brought to you by his lack of interest in learning what the appropriate talking points are. Donald Trump is now doing the Charlie Kirk event, a posthumous
able to fight people.
Medal of Honor being given to Charlie Kirk.
He loved those enemies so much. You know, I heard he loved his enemies, and I said, wait a minute, is that the same Charlie that I know? I'm not sure, but I didn't want to get into it. But it was a horrible, heinous, demonic act of murder. He was assassinated in the prime of his life for boldly speaking the truth, for living his faith and relentlessly fighting for a better and stronger America. He loved this country. And that's why this afternoon it's my privilege to posthumously award Charles James Kirk our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Thank you. As you know, only hours ago, I returned from a very historic trip to secure peace in the Middle East. People said that couldn't be done. Charlie felt it could be done. Charlie felt it could be done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I raced back halfway around the globe. I was going to call Erica and say, Erica, could you maybe move it to Friday? And I didn't have the courage to call. But you know why I didn't call? Because I heard today was Charlie's birthday. And I said, that was a definite. And I said, we're going to have to forget about some of those very big, very rich countries that expected me to be there. And I can tell you, based on the length of that flight, I wouldn't want to go back tomorrow.
How does Candace Owens feel about this? Not being a part of this? Well, she decided to go with Israel did it as a route, and she will be permanently outcast for that reason.
In meaningful way, and thank you for making this event a priority.
I do think that there are different groups, different factions within the right now that actually do. There are different factions within the right, some of which actually do think that there was like suspicions. Some of which don't like the way that Erica Kirk has handled it. So there is some schisms taking place here. There is some infighting that's going on in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination. This should have been a moment of unity for them to get together and say, we are going to attack the left. The left did this. And yet there have been a lot of people who have been fighting one another in the aftermath of this, partially because it's a grift economy that they've cultivated, right? And there are always going to be different factions, different people that look at this and have a higher priority. Some people who fucking hate Israel and want to say that this is Israel. Some people who dislike the information that has been given on this case so far. And then the misinformation landscape that we already have. It's kind of like with COVID. There were a lot of people who were hawking supplements as an alternative during the COVID era. But then there were also plenty of people who were doing it specifically to come out as like a different voice, an anti-intellectual voice, right? So there are numerous reasons as to why people decide to communicate around this issue in the ways that they do. And it's almost always about clout, and clout means money, obviously, but in some instances, literally to hawk whatever supplements that they want to sell. And in other instances, is just to show themselves as like an earnest voice. Tying this back to Israel, if your highest priority is to say this is Israel's fault, is going to make you look more honest than the rest of these guys. These guys are all fake. These guys are all phony. They're farming Charlie Kirk's death in the wrong direction. What they should be doing instead is farming it in the direction that Israel did it, right? I say let them fight. I think ultimately there are some like interesting there's some interesting information that has been released in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's death that like call into question exactly what happened, but that's always a given in high profile incidents like this, and it's especially more so a given nowadays in this misinformation landscape that we're in. But let them fight, I guess.
Promises. He used to love to journal about this topic all the time, and with such a heart postured of gratitude. And he believed that liberty was both a right and a responsibility. And he used to say, freedom is the ability to do what is right without fear. And that's how he lived. He was free from fear.
Trump is not amused by her. Yes, Trump doesn't like being upstaged.
Free from anything that
and he's currently being upstaged. He doesn't like to sit in the cuck chair as someone else speaks. We know that already. That's his like power play for every fucking world leader.
And that's exactly who my husband.
Yeah, this is the other side of the story, by the way. This is something that I've seen as well. A lot of like right wingers are dunking on Erica Kirk. She's getting so much shit on Insta, even from fans. They feel like it's a grift and they're mad about the cover up and they feel like she's being blasphemous. Like they straight up think that like either she's not abiding by like religious doctrine. There's some people who are mad that like they suspect her of like converting Charlie to Catholicism. There's like a million different reasons. And they are very mad. Like right wingers have been yelling at her nonstop. I think partially this goes back to what I was talking about, which is that like everyone has a lot of unrestrained anger with no outlet, with no clear, decipherable, discernible movement, with no outlet whatsoever. And they are looking for like a pressure valve, but there is none. And things are only getting worse and worse. Material conditions are only worsening. And therefore, they just keep lashing out. And in some instances, they even lash out at their own allies. And I think that's what's going on here. There's no targets. So they just target whoever the fuck is in their, whoever the fuck they consider to be accessible. But anyway, let's get back to our big, beautiful, bold president talking about radical Antifa, NATO, radical Spain, not pushing for American-style burger austerity in an effort to restructure their entire economy so that 5% of their GDP goes to defense spending.
Allowed the radical left to take over the Democrat Party.
Like, this kind of shit is not exactly exciting for the base. You know, this is the opposite. This is like his version of, I did NATO, Jack. This kind of stuff is obviously very exciting for the military-industrial complex, the real benefactors, right? But it's not necessarily exciting for the base. He's still working through the motions, though, in the way that he wants to.
So if they write books about that, if they write books about him, they're going to have to say that his career ended by allowing the radical left to take over the party. I mean, I won an election in a landslide because people are not into the radical left, and the Democrat Party is. People didn't want to see men playing in women's sports. They didn't want to see transgender for everybody. They didn't want to see all of the different things that they do that's so crazy. Open borders. I mean, the worst thing that he did to us is not inflation, because we fixed inflation. Prices are way down.
Transgender for everybody.
I don't know if you saw that gasoline went to 58 just now. Did you see what's going on with gasoline?
We track that.
No, $58 a barrel.
Yeah, we track that.
Nobody can believe it. I'm very proud of that. You know why? Because we're pumping like we've never pumped before. Because if you get the gas price down, everything else comes down. It's very simple. And he went away from my policies, and you had the greatest inflation. The last administration had the greatest inflation in the history of our country. And now, as you know, groceries are down. It's all down.
Is it? It don't feel like it. I don't know. I mean, oil prices are the only thing that's like seemingly down, but everything else doesn't seem to be down at all. And if you ask the average Republican, I don't think they think the grocery prices are down either. They actually complain about it quite a bit. And it's not just the grocery prices, it's the rent. It's the rent that is like very costly. It's the healthcare that is very costly. It's the medicine that's very costly. So oil is supposed to gear the entirety of the economy. And when the oil prices go down, all the other prices are supposed to readjust, and they're supposed to go down as well, except they haven't. And in the absence of any sort of like regulatory control, in the absence of any sort of like price controls, for example, which I know is a scary fucking statement to make, or even utilities prices are also up too, especially energy, like electricity prices are up. It's all fucked. That's the real issue. And in the absence of solving that real issue, discontent will only continue to grow. And Trump can still keep redirecting the attention to a more appropriate target by his own, grand design, the transgender, Antifa, radical Marxists, and the undocumented Guatemalans or whatever. But ultimately, you can't just keep coasting on. You can't keep coasting on how great things actually are in secret, how great things are for the stock market, and then not expect your own base to go, man, you do talk about the stock market quite a bit. And while some of us have 401ks, like that's not really actually translating to my pockets hurting less year over year.
On the shutdown, are you settling in for?
And in terms of the economy and the way that people feel, the way that people perceive the economy, for the record, and this is the most important thing, this was a major issue with the Brandon administration as well. It partially led to the Democrats losing the election to Donald Trump. It played a big role in the Democrats losing the election to Donald Trump. They thought that they could just like communicate their way out of this. They thought they could be like, no, it's just vibes. your pockets aren't actually hurting. Your pockets aren't actually hurting. And obviously that was not something that people were willing to entertain. Clearly people feel the way that they feel when they see how much money they have left at the end of the month. And it's not because they're spending they're spending all their budget and blowing it on like avocado toast, as they used to say about the millennials. I don't know what they say about Gen Z. I guess OnlyFans maybe, or gambling. But like, it's not that. It's that the overall economy for the 90% that is not in the top 10% of wealth, that is that has ownership stake in the stock market at least, but like for the 90% of Americans that live in the real world, it's not because like Netflix and DoorDash and Disney Plus subscriptions that are really burning a fucking hole in their budgets. It's the fact that rent is 50% of their wages. That is fucking insane. As long as rent is 50% of people's wages, even if wages go up, it doesn't feel like wages are going up, okay? And marginal price shocks, marginal increases in the cost of goods overall is going to be felt way harder by people like this, because they automatically don't have 50% of the wages. Like, it's going, 10% is going to like healthcare and stuff, and then the 50% is going to their rent. What are they supposed to do? What the fuck are they supposed to do? People are obviously frustrated. And in the absence of any sort of solution to that, you can fucking cry about transgender people all day, every day, but people are still going to get mad. It's just, bro, like the Department of Homeland Security is literally Groyper posting every day, bro. They are literally straight up Hitler posting. Oh my God, these are the fucking racist Nazi losers. Of course they are. Oh my lordy. Holy moly. Oh, fuck. It is, dude, this is why fascism is a fucking loser ideology, okay? It is a fucking loser ideology. It's an ideology that you only abide by if there is something lacking in your life, okay? And it's not because they're like thick and chunky. There's plenty of thick, chunky boys out there who are fighting the good fight. But you can see them reeking with insecurity. Fascism is the ideology of fucking losers. They have no great ambition to redesign society in an equitable fashion. They have no interest in helping others. They simply are constantly engaging in battle, and in some instances violence, to restore a mythological project of person, because it's something that they lack internally. They have something that's missing, and that insecurity causes them to fantasize about the entire in-group being this superior, playing a superior role in society, and we have to like reassert dominance in this way. That's what it is. That's what I've seen in so many circumstances. Like when you're lacking something in your life and you have a sense of overwhelming entitlement, and your personal experiences in the real world do not match what you thought society owed you, you turn to ideologies like fascism. Okay? That's when you do it. You turn to an ideology like fascism because, like, oh, we're big and strong, actually. We're descendants of Vikings. We're descendants of great Roman legionnaires. We're descendants of Romans, which is really interesting because Rome was an unimaginably diverse empire. Like, these guys would literally look at like all of those like 5'4" North African dudes and be like, these were the fucking This is the beacon of white excellence. Like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. But you only go back to this mythological higher being and what your personhood actually represents, this broad unit that you're a part of, that is destined by God to dominate, if you are deeply fucking insecure about what's going on in your immediate life. And sometimes the inflection could be something as stupid as like not getting pussy. Okay? Straight up. Just like other people get laid, I can't. Why not me? I deserve it as well. If only they knew that I was at the top of the racial pecking order. Hasan, better watch your knees? What does that mean? Are you saying I'm old? Because you're not wrong. I am getting there. I'm getting up there in age. A friend of mine got blackmailed to leak in these chats, a total fucking coward, a useless piece of shit. One of the people in here, he attended his wedding with me and still sold him over to the devil, all for some useless YR beef. Young Republican beef. And then the GOP condemned them. Fuck these people. The GOP threatened to fire my friend and vice chairman from his AG job because of TikToks I posted about immigration. I wasn't allowed to talk about replacement theory or any mainline immigration stances. They asked me to resign over Trump's green card diploma mill comments. I was blacklisted by Young Republican National and blocked by their accounts because their leader is a BLM sympathizing closet case. Oh, the GOP tried to fire my friend. Everyone in this article is a patriot, and everyone attacking them is a dirty, treacherous, impotent, cowardly bundle of sticks. They all deserve to be destroyed. I like that Evan says, own your beliefs. I think he is, to be fair. To be fair to the fucking neo-Nazi, it seems like he is owning his beliefs. He's saying that the Republicans or the Republican Party broadly is not owning their beliefs. A bundle of sticks, I assume, is the F slur, right? That's what he's like. I guess he isn't owning his beliefs in that regard because he won't say the F slur. Instead, he's just saying bundle of sticks. He is whining about the leak, though, is Evan's point. True. All right, let's get to the fucking article. The article is titled, I Love Hitler. Leaked messages expose young Republicans' racist chat. Leaders of young Republican groups throughout the country worried what would happen if their Telegram chat ever got leaked, but they kept typing anyway. They refer to black people as monkeys and the watermelon people and mused about putting their political opponents in gas chambers. They talked about raping their enemies and driving them to suicide, and a lot of Republicans who they believe support slavery. William Hendricks, the Kansas Young Republican vice chair, used the words N-word and variations of a racial slur more than a dozen times in the chat. Bobby Walker, the vice chair of the New York State Young Republicans at the time, referred to rape as epic. Peter Junta, who at the time was chair of the same organization, wrote in a message sent in June that everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber. Junta was referring to an upcoming vote on whether he should be chair of the Young Republican National Federation, the GOP's 15,000-member political organization for Republicans between 18 and 40 years old. I'm going to create some of the greatest physiological torture methods known to man. We only want true believers, he continued. Two members of the chat responded. Everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber. When do we start bullying, dude? We have a solid 3 people who can probably have them want to jump. If they vote for us, why would they be gas? When do we bring that side out? I'm going to create some of the greatest physiological torture methods known to man. We want only true believers. Can we fix the showers? Gas chambers don't fit the Hitler aesthetic. I'm ready to watch people burn now. We got to pretend that we like them. Hey, come on in. Take a nice shower and relax. Boom. They're dead. Gas chambers is a Dutch oven. That's... He's gonna fart and put the covers over their heads so hard that the person is gonna be driven to suicide. Also, it doesn't make sense. Gas chambers absolutely fit the Hitler aesthetic. What is this guy saying? not to be that guy, but like, is that just like, is he also like denying the Holocaust while demanding more of it? Because it kind of feels like it, where he's literally, he goes, can we fix the showers? As in, like, you know, it's like a common Holocaust denial, while simultaneously, like, guess he wrote that. Next sentence reveals the statement. Can we fix the showers? Gas chambers who don't fit the Hitler aesthetic. Joe Maligno, who previously identified himself as general counsel for the New York State Young Republicans, wrote back. He just thinks that they only use shower traps and not actual gas chambers because he's historically illiterate. I'm ready to watch people burn now. Annie K. Katie. That's what Annie K. Katie? New York's National Committee member said. The exchange is part of a trove of Telegram chats obtained by Politico and spanning more than 7 months of messages among young Republican leaders in New York, Kansas, Arizona, and Vermont. The chat offers an unfiltered look at how a new generation of GOP activists talk when they think no one is listening. Since Politico, Katie. Since Politico began making inquiries, one member of the group chat is no longer employed at their job, and another's job offer was rescinded. Prominent New York Republicans, including Representative Elise Stefanik and State Senate Minority Leader Rob Ortt, have denounced the chat. And festering resentments among young Republicans have now turned into public recriminations, including allegations of character assassination and extortion. The 2,900 pages of chats shared among a dozen millennial and Gen Z Republicans between early January and mid-August chronicled their campaign to seize control of the National Young Republican Organization on a hardline pro-Donald Trump platform. Many of the chat members already work inside the government or party politics, and one serves as a state senator. Together, the messages reveal a culture where racist, anti-Semitic, and violent rhetoric circulate freely, and where the Trump-era loosening of political norms has made such talk feel less taboo among those positioning themselves as the party's next leaders. The more the political atmosphere is open and liberating, like it's been with the emergence of Trump and more right-wing GOP even before him, it opens up young people and older people to telling racist jokes, making racist commentaries in private and in public, said Joe Fagan, a Texas A&M sociology professor who has studied racism for the last 60 years. He's like, I've been studying racism for the last 60 years, and let me tell you, okay, shit's gotten so much more open, which is ironic because that's literally what I've been saying. So I guess you don't have to be a fucking professor of racism to recognize this, okay? This man is a professional racist. This man is a doctor of racism, okay? It turns out your boy, your dumb fuck favorite Twitch streamer, also has a doctorate in racism, maybe a PhD. I'm an engineer of racism. This is Annie Kate. Annie K. Katie, Bobby Walker, and Peter Junta and Joe Maligno are the ones that talk shit in here, lol. What's up with young Republicans, bro? They always look the same way. What is this aesthetic? Anyway, but yeah, see, look. Young people and older people use the expanded permission structure of jokes or racist quips left and right in an effort to normalize this kind of behavior, normalize this kind of attitude. And that normalization also obviously revolves around the policy making apparatus. In the past, Republicans used to still have racialized policies. That much is true, right? But nowadays, they also openly say that they're doing this for racial animus. And the more this becomes commonplace, I think the more it softens people's approach. The more it makes people, the more it makes people feel comfortable with this kind of approach.